our meeting. We reconvene, and we come to the part on our agenda of the police shooting case, 1I-79-12.
Thank you, Chair Cameron. I-79-12 involved on the occurred here in Albuquerque on January the 4th, 2000. A few days prior to that, three individuals, Mark B., his friend, and a fellow were in New Mexico. They were involved as Mr. B and his fiance had been living together for a period of time. They joined up with a third individual who, and they derived from Ruidoso, Albuquerque, to rob and steal from the Catholic Center at St. Joseph's Place. Based on the history of Mr. B, he had strong dislike for the Catholic faith and members of the religion, and wanted to steal and thought that they were evil. And so his intent was to steal from the Catholic Center. And as you will see from photographs, which I will show you, my today would be to go over my letter and then to show you the photograph from the investigation with the things in my letter. But as you will see in later photographs, that Mr. B not only researched where the Catholic Center was, but the home of Michael Sheehan, Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Santa Fe here in Albuquerque, and had intent of doing harm to the Catholic charities and Catholic funds, stealing from them. On Sundays, when they first talked about driving up to Albuquerque to rob from the Catholic Center, 4000 St. Joseph's Place Northwest. On the Monday, they all drove together in the same car to Ruidoso to Albuquerque and checked to a motel. At that point, it was when the third person, Mr. K, withdrew from the conspiracy and decided that he was not going to participate in the robbery of the Catholic Center and left to go be with different acquaintances here in Albuquerque. On Tuesday evening, Mr. B and his fiancée cruised down Coors in St. Joseph's to see where the Catholic Center was and what was going on during the business hours, to case what the activity was. They saw what they believed to be a security at the Catholic evening hours. On Wednesday, January the 4th, they went to Depot in Albuquerque, a Walmart, to purchase duct tape, pillowcases, earplugs, zip ties, which are plastic pieces used in construction to tie electrical cords together, but they're also used to restrain people by law enforcement as a means to handcuff or restrain people, because the plastic is very strong and you can break it by pulling on it. And they also purchased earplugs as well. Approximately 9 p.m. on January the 4th, 2012, Mr. B asked his fiancée to drive him over, drop him off in a housing area near the Catholic Center off of Coors. He told her he was going to do something that would help them financially. When he got out of the car, he had his backpack, which contained duct tape, zip tie, a ski mask, gloves, pillowcase, gun, which is a revolver gun, and he had his gun, the revolver, and the backpack also contained an inch knife as well. And you'll see the contents of the backpack later in the photographs. Mr. B told his girlfriend, his fiancée, that he planned to tie up in a chair he found inside the Catholic Center, and that he was going to use his gun and the security guard to make him tell the location of the money within the business establishment. And he also admitted to his friend prior to getting out of the car that he was willing to use the gun to knock out anyone he could. She said that she knew that he intended to restrain people inside the Catholic Center, but she said his plans were if he actually had to confront someone with a gun. On that day, January the 4th, 2012, security guard, Robert, also known as, has a name, security guard, Jay, arrived at his work at the Catholic Center at approximately 4:15. His job was to make rounds, check on property, and he also wrote a report. At approximately 5:50 p.m., he began locking down the Catholic Center. He sat down at his desk and wrote his routine report about what he had done during his routine patrols. And for the third time, in 7:05, he did the same. And at 9:30 that evening, he began his third round of the property, examining both the inside and the outside to make sure the property was secure. At approximately 10:15, Mr. J returned to the Catholic Center. He stood at the west main entrance, getting ready to unlock the doors to go back inside, when he heard someone running behind him. Initially, he thought it was a friend of his playing a joke on him, but it was Mr. B who decided to was grabbing him and jumping and attacking him, and it wasn't a joke. Mr. B shoved John's. You'll see from the photographs that he suffered a laceration. That the Catholic Center's security camera recorded the attack of Mr. Beecham. Mr. B of the guard. Mr. B pulled his revolver out of his waistband at the security guard's head, and he told him, "You better do what I tell you, or I'm going to blow your head off," and put in the language as an adjective for your head off. Mr. B kept asking where the money was and commanded that the security tell him to open up the door. Once inside the center, Mr. B asked where the security cameras were located. The security guard did not respond. He then, Mr. B demanded the security guard to take him somewhere where there were no cameras within sight. And in fact, that's what happened. He did take him where there were no security cameras, to a small cafeteria. And you'll see from the photographs that room in which there's vending machines and other things within the cafeteria. Mr. B forced the security guard to sit in an armless chair, and Mr. B then placed zip ties around his neck and tightened it. And you'll see from the photographs there are ligature marks on the security guard's neck where the zip ties were on him. Mr. B then used the zip ties to tie up the security guard's arms and one leg. He placed a black pillowcase that they previously purchased over the head of the security guard. At this time, Mr. B, he was wearing dark clothing and a full mask that was dark black in color and totally disguised his identity. And so the security guard actually see the face of Mr. B, the man who intended to rob the Catholic Center. Mr. B repeatedly asked the security guard where was the money. Replied he was only a contract. At first he replied he was only a contract security guard. He didn't know where the money was located. Then Mr. B took the revolver and pointed it at his head. And you hear this even through the pillowcase on his head. And the security guard believed he was about to be murdered. Mr. B told the security guard that he had seen the security guard carrying a silver suitcase the day before and asked him the location of the silver suitcase, believing that perhaps money was in there. The security guard didn't own a silver suitcase, but later believed that perhaps Mr. B thought his lunch box that he was carrying, which is silver, he mistakenly believed it was a suitcase containing money. Believing that he was about to be killed, the security guard told Mr. B what he wanted to know. In fact, the thoughts went through the security guard's head that he wanted to live so that he could see his children again. The security guard told Mr. B about the location of some money in the Catholic Center, that the finance office had a safe which contained money. And so the security guard then handed the keys to Mr. B and instructed him how to get to the finance office. You'll see from the photos, there were many offices within the Catholic Center. As you can imagine, for an entire archdiocese, there were many people that worked there during business hours, and it was a description and defined what the finance office was. Once the security guard heard the second door shut, he grabbed his cell phone and called his supervisor. What I've explained here too, when Mr. first attacked the security officer at the front of the establishment of the Catholic Center, he took Mr. a cell phone out of the clothing of the security guard. But many people who work for business, security guard owned two phones, one that he used for work purposes, provided the employer, the security company, and one for his personal use. And so he retained his personal cell phone. And it was his personal cell phone that he used to call his supervisor and say that he was at the Catholic Center and he was at gunpoint and to call the police. The security guard then quickly hung up his personal cell phone, and Mr. B was downstairs carrying the safe. A safe. In fact, there were two safes in the finance office, but there was only one that was portable in any way. The safe weighed approximately 80 pounds, and the size of an average laptop, I would say, only cubed. It was a very heavy safe, small enough that you could carry it if you were a strong person. He came down and asked, Mr. B came down with the safe and asked the security guard for the combination. And he then returned the keys to the security guard. The security guard said he didn't know the combination, and then the security guard's phone rang again. Mr. B became concerned and nervous, and why would someone be calling him? The security guard explained it's probably a supervisor to know why he hadn't checked out yet. When in fact, the investigation was the security supervisor finding out if in fact that was true, was okay. And it was the security guard's failure to answer this phone call that prompted the security company to call the police at that moment. A 911 call goes out of an armed robbery in progress at the center. So then Mr. after the phone call pointed the gun at the security guard at his head again and told him to cool or he would kill him. Mr. B then took out the phone and called someone. I'm ready, come pick me up right now, right now. After hanging up, Mr. B pulled out a knife and began approaching the security guard. The security guard at that time believed he was going to be stabbed, but instead Mr. B cut off the zip tie off the hands of Mr. B, but he put the zip tie on the neck of him when officers behind the security guard. I'm sorry, he cut the zip tie off the security guard. He was found with the zip tie still on his neck. Mr. B offered the security guard some of the safe if he didn't call anyone. The security guard said he didn't want to be safe, that he was happy to be alive. And then the security guard was told by Mr. B, I got against you, just the Catholics. The last thing that the security guard knew was that Mr. B left through the door on the north side of the building. He traveled down the south side, the steps leading towards the east. And the security guard got out of his chair and went to the back door. The security guard said he heard approximately 6 gunshots, and he believed Mr. B was shooting at him, and he then turned to the basement to hide. He did not come out until his supervisor told him that the police were on the scene at that point. Officer P shipped a little bit before 10 a.m. on January the 4th, 2012. He was in his uniform and driving a marked patrol car. He was getting gas at a gasoline station approximately a minute away from the Catholic Center when he heard over the radio of a possible armed robbery in progress at the Catholic Center. Officer P heard that another officer said on the radio that he was already at the scene. Officer P turned off his and parked on St. Place, a street adjacent to the Catholic Church, and realized that he was also on the scene. ABQ dispatcher told police officers that the security could not contact the security guard at the Catholic Center. Knowing this, Officer P went up to the south side of the Catholic Center with his flashlight. The sheet of paper that you have is a is a printout, and you can see the line is the same, and where the Mr. B was found down is indicated to the right of the photograph, and the safe to his right. And these are shown as they were found in relation to each other. And you will see that the blood trail that is a little squiggle mark to the north is from the Mr. B believe that he stepped down towards the officer, and was advancing towards the officer at the time that he dropped. And the little circles along the third line, those are the casings that were found from Officer B's firearm. If you go to your final page of handout, you'll see that the CE marks C10 as the first casing. They were numbered in the order in which detectives walking onto the scene found them. They found them last, closest to the body, but in fact they occurred first. So C10 is the first casing from Officer B's firearm. Mr. B was using a revolver, and so a revolver retains the cartridges and would not have any casings from his. The B3 is where a bullet, an actual through and through, or a miss, one of the two, shot Mr. B. And then you can see the casings as they back up as the officer is trying to get away. The evening as it was shown, there's the officer at some point when he's retreating, he drops his flashlight. All these numbers with the C5, C6, C7 are indicating where casings were found. This is the embankment that goes down where the safe is thrown over. And this is behind a large bush. You can kind of stop. It was a very large bush that Officer P took concealment behind. It wasn't really covered, wouldn't stop any bullets that were away, but it was concealing his from the view of Mr. B. This is where Mr. B was found. And you can see at the top of his backpack there's a crowbar sticking out and the large zip ties that were still in his backpack. And his revolver was thrown by officers who approached him. It was thrown away from him before they knew whether he was able to use the weapon or not. The officers threw it away, but it was in his hand when they approached him. This is a photograph of the Catholic Center at daytime the next day, or later that same day, the 5th. This is the view of the path that the officer and Mr. B ran towards the embankment. And you can see the yellow cones, which are still in place from the night before, of where the casings were found. And behind that, you can see the large bush where Officer P took cover. And then the orange cones are the blood trail that's shown on your diagram. And then you can see this was thrown over and as it rolled down the hill. And that black slot on the safe is where the staff would have put in the money through the petty cash through the hole in the wall. This is the security guard as the officers found that evening. And you can see the ligature marks on his neck. Here's a ruler measuring the length of the ligature on his neck. And the laceration to his neck in the initial fight where he was attacked. And this ligature that was on his neck when the officers found him. Here's the measurement of the ligature that was still on his neck. This is afterwards, this backpack that was found on Mr. B. He used a fire tool, looks like a crowbar. There's the nylon ties, the bag of 25 that they bought the day before at the Home Depot. There's the end of the crowbar, and he used it on the wall of the drywall of the Catholic Center. And here's all the things that were in the backpack. There's an extra ski mask, presumably from case. And it decided to jump back into the plan. Used, or was planning to use to tie people up. Binoculars used for the surveillance, the large knife. Gloves. Here also found were instructions from Rio to get to Albuquerque. This is the first page that gets them to the hotel where they decided to stay. And then there's a page that where it gets them from the hotel to Catholic Center. Inside the backpack was this pad, which was significant, because in that Mr. B took his surveillance of, his information about trying to find out information about Archbishop Sheehan. He was age 70, that sometimes he lived in Albuquerque, sometimes he lived in Lubbock, and sometimes he lives in Texarkana. Here's the same note, the handwriting of Mr. B, here's the address of the center, where the Archdiocese of Santa Fe resides, or the offices. Also noted he wrote down that the cathedral for the Catholic Church is in Santa Fe on the plaza. He writes his shopping list: duct tape, mace, earplugs. One can infer that you have earplugs because you're going to discharge a weapon. There would be no reason to have earplugs in an armed robbery. On the info list, he says that he needs to find out the Albuquerque, which is misspelled, Albuquerque address of the Archdiocese and Michael Sheehan's address. He writes to himself, note that he needs to make maps of the Archdiocese, Michael's house, the Red Roof Hotel, which is where they stay. And then he writes down again the address on the Rio Grande, on St. Joseph Avenue. This is the other material that was in the backpack, gloves, and this like wire cutters or bolt cutter tool. The 12-inch knife, duct tape, some of which was not new, because you could see the small one, presumably bright small, that he only bought one at the Home Depot. Binoculars, the extra ski mask, his revolver, which holds 6 cartridges, and which was loaded, and he had another 6 cartridges in his pocket. There's the receipts for the Depot, and other receipts for the Walmart where he bought the other material. This is for the wire ties and the. Here's his holster that he was wearing. He carried his revolver. One of the co-defendants said that he always carried his revolver because he thought it looked cool, and so he had this holster on him all the time. And there's the ski mask he was wearing, and heavy, used for motorcycle or some heavy sport gloves that he was wearing that prevented him from fully getting the discharge strength needed to discharge the weapon 6 times. Here's the report that the officer was typing on that needed as his routines, patrols, and that was found. So I would stand for any questions, but ask that you adopt and approve my letter as written, finding that Officer P complied with standard for use of force, and that his belief was reasonable that he was in danger of great bodily harm or death.
Questions, Commissioner?
I just want to clarify one minor thing. On your diagram show, Ms. Hammer, the B3, you show that you identified that as a bullet, but according to the police, the police report lists all the items of evidence. B3 was a blood sample that was located around west of this city.
I stand corrected. Thank you.
So I there wasn't a bullet there. And I would say for we all had an opportunity to review the police department's internal investigation, a total of 64 pages of material.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I move to approve the IRO's findings and letter to the police in the case of I-79-12.
Second. Commissioner Foster, second. Is there any discussion? Okay, we're ready to vote. In favor of approving I-79-12, please raise your right hand. It is unanimous. Thank you, Hammer. We move on to the Outreach Committee report. Oh, I'm sorry, Long-Term Planning Committee report.
discussion with the IRO about APD's policy and training practices on searches of homes and businesses to ensure the safety. If you recall at the last POC meeting, an issue was raised in connection with one of the citizens' complaint letters, and we therefore had that discussion. And we agreed that in order to explore that further in the long-term planning committee, we've asked the IRO to make arrangements to have a training officer from the ABQ Academy come to the long-term planning committee meeting to discuss that problem. That is, what are officers trained to, how they were trained to, when they have a right to do a sweep of a home for the purpose of officer safety, and when they don't have that right. The second, another matter we dealt with in the long-term planning committee was the standards have been established by the independent review officer for inactivating CPCs, which was also a discussion that was raised as a result of a CPC matter we reviewed at the last POC commission meeting. The way that was left after some extensive helpful discussion was that the IRO was going to draft a proposed amendment to the rules to deal with that, to our POC rules to deal with that issue, which we will then review in the long-term planning committee and hopefully be able to make a recommendation to the full POC. There were also inquiries about the status of the APD negotiations of an MOU, changes in the SOPs with the APD in terms of dealing with officer-involved shootings, and that was reported. The negotiations with the district attorney, development of an MOU at the time, nothing had a meeting, but I had not yet drafted a proposed MOU, which is the way the first meeting was left. Since that time, I've drafted an MOU with the district attorney's office and sent it to the IRO for her. We'll be discussing that, and from there move on to negotiations directly with the district attorney on that matter. We also had reviewed the status of the inquiries that the various commissions are making into the ordinances and other matters in connection with the 30-city study for ordinance amendments. And that's basically what happened about.
Okay. Thank you for your good work. Mr.
Mr. Chair, I attended the meeting also as a member of the audience, and I'd like to commend Commissioner Shine and the committee for the activities that they discussed with the IRO. It was very lively, it was very informative, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. As a matter of fact, I've asked our counsel if he would give us an opinion as to bring these kinds of discussions to the general commission. I thank you, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
May I supplement that by saying that the lively discussion we had, particularly on the inactivation standards and the search issue, was intended for the purpose of developing something, to develop a policy, then we're proposed to bring it from the long-term planning committee to the full commission, and then have an equally lively discussion with the full commission on those matters. Because they're very important matters, both from the point of view of the commission, the public, and the APD.
Good. Thank you. Outreach Committee, Jonathan Sequel.
Outreach Committee met today at 2:30. The agenda called for us to discuss frequently asked questions. There's a 9-page document developed by staff with some discussion of amendments. We propose to bring that to the full commission and put it on the agenda for next month. It's possible there will still need to be further changes upon review of those amendments. So we'll be asking that it be put on the agenda for next month for consideration by the full POC. Except that I'll tell you, I've got my fingers crossed behind my back, and we may withdraw it later if there's a cause or if somebody wants to hold off and make further amendments. We also discussed a PowerPoint presentation which the IRO's office is developing for IRO presentations to the public, and began to talk about where we should go with such presentations. I think there is a sense, at least from me and maybe from other committee members, that we need to take the show on the road and tell the public what it is we do and how we do it. Lastly, amongst other matters, a lively discussion was had having to do with the IRO's quarterly report, which will be before us in the next few minutes. The question really arises as to whether the long-term planning committee ought to review such quarterly reports, or whether the outreach committee ought to review such reports as they are fundamentally an outreach product. They are what goes to the public and to the city council. Or neither should review them, or all should review them, and whether they need to be vetted by those committees, if at all. And so I think plurally, the POC needs to at least undertake understanding and framing that discussion. Thank you.
So as I understand it, the frequently asked questions document will be sent to commissioners to look over them, and if we have any suggestions, are you soliciting input?
Absolutely, we would be, and I would, especially if you do, send them not to all, which would violate the Open Meetings Act, but send them back to staff. Staff will distribute it to you. Send it back to staff. They'll collate the proposed amendments and suggestions and present them back to us for the committee hearing. If it's trivial, we'll carry it forward. If there's a lot of further amendment, then we'll hold on.
Okay. Thank you. We move now to reports from city staff. The Senate Review Officer, Ms. Hammer.
Thank you. I wanted to report on the work that we've done in the past. This is as a result of a flood that we had at our office at Plaza del Sol. This is my reference material of all the SOPs that are relevant to IPRAs. And so we're sort of, it really did set back nearly a full week of dealing with the flood, the dehumidifiers, the fan blowing. It was a disruption in the business of the IRO for a period of time after the large rains, which came in both from the roof, because we're on the top floor, and through the windows with 80-mile-an-hour winds. And so at one point there was 6 inches of water in my office. It was kind of a mess. So we dealt with that and moved forward. We are working on, I did speak with the Chief of Police, Chief Schultz, before he left, about suggestions for changes for handcuffing while at the PTU, for restroom breaks, and that's in progress. I'm here to report that the department is working on a progress of allowing reason to apply, which was a request from the commission to look into that for as well. I did that as well. We're continuing to work on our database to make sure that we have accurate information within the reports that are presented from the IRO's office. We received a total of 22 reports, 22 complaints last month. We, as you know, through the meeting, inactivated 12 separate complaints and closed through complete and thorough investigation 7 cases last month. We're continuing to move forward, reviewing officer-involved shootings and all the projects that we have in the air. Thank you.
Okay, are there questions for our Commissioner Siegel?
Briefly, at least from my point of view, we had asked that APD look at how to handle prisoner bathroom requests, both at this PTU but also at substations, which we had a case, I think it was last month, and the problem occurred at a substation where they had stopped prior to going downtown to the transfer station. So be sure that APD looks at both sites and a policy of that. Thanks.
Right, it's one SOP involving prisoners and bathrooms. So.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't want it limited just to that transfer spot. Thanks.
Anyone else? Thank you. Next up, Commissioner Skostopol for a SOP update. Investigator. Sorry to insult you like that.
It wasn't insulting. I appreciate your work that you all do here. Chairman Cameron and Honorable Commissioners, the Police Policy and Procedures Review Board held a meeting on July 17th of this year. There were 5 issues that were addressed during that time. The first one was the detention of witnesses policy. The second was the grooming standards policy, and I believe we talked about that before, but it was brought back, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. The detention, I'm sorry, skip the page. The traffic division SOP was rewritten in its entirety for a number of reasons, which I'll get into. The DWI investigation policy was rewritten, and the roadblock policy was rewritten. The detention of witness policy was tabled so it could be formatted to SOP style. We're really, really close to getting that into an SOP. They have to do a few minor changes, but it will be passed.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded to approve the letter. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed? Okay, we have 5 in favor and Commissioner Siegel against. Next.
The next case is CPC 105-13. There's a complaint filed by an individual because the complainant observed a police officer drop off children at an elementary school back in May of this year. The independent review office assigned this to the Internal Affairs Division to investigate. The investigation determined that through computer-aided dispatch and speaking with the officer, that the officer was dropping off children at an elementary school who are not his own children, but were in fact children involved in a criminal investigation. But even if he had been dropping off his own children, that would not be a violation of the SOP, as long as the use of the police vehicle did not interfere with his professional duties. So, and that was explained to the complainant as well, that it was involved in a case, and I'm asking that you inactivate this case. And also, just as the previous case, this officer who was involved retired, has retired at the end of June, and so we no longer have jurisdiction. So on both issues, he's retired and there was no SOP violation. I'm asking that you inactivate this case.
I move approval of 105-13. Is there a second? Mr. Foster, is there discussion? Commissioner Siegel.
I would certainly ask, Mr. Chair, that you direct our IRO and city legal to explain either or both of these kinds of cases. In this case, an officer retired. If an officer were to retire while allegations were hanging over his or her head, and if the allegations were trivial or very important, moot or not, I don't know why we shouldn't continue to understand the charges against the person. I don't know where it says in our ordinance that the only reason we do this is so that the chief of police can exact penalties upon officers who are found to have allegations sustained. That's only a portion of our purpose of oversight. I think it's important that we conduct oversight on all actions of sworn officers and employees of the police department at all times while they're acting in that duty, irrespective of their later resignation or leaving of their post.
Okay, perhaps we can ask Mr. Du Bois to consider this and make a report at our next meeting. Would you be willing to do that?
I can make a report on that.
Okay.
Or I can do it during my regular scheduled.
Why don't we do that?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Mr. Chair, this is a point we're under consideration. This is the point that you brought up. Mr. Chair, this is a point that Commissioner Siegel has brought up, and I think this is pertinent in relation to us either accepting this or not accepting this.
Well, let's see. If it's voted down, if the motion is voted down, then we'll consider that. There's a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. All in favor of approving this CPC 80, where is it? I had it. 105-13. Please raise your right hand. Okay. All are in favor?
The next case for your consideration is CPC 113-13, in which there's an allegation of improper driving. It was assigned to the Internal Affairs Division to investigate. It was learned that the officer alleged the subject of the complaint was responding to a call, and that his driving was in response to trying to investigate a burglary in progress at a business at Montgomery and Eubank here in the Northeast. The Internal Affairs Division and the supervisor spoke with the complainant and explained this, and the complainant said that she understood and the explanation and did not wish to pursue the matter any further. So I would ask that you inactivate this complaint without further investigation, as having for both the wishes of the complainant and having no SOP violations.
I move adoption or approval of CPC 113-13. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Peterson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous.
With respect to CPC 128-13, there was an allegation of improper driving by an Albuquerque Public Schools police officer. Under the ordinance and the contract, we have no jurisdiction to investigate this matter, and I'm asking you to inactivate this case for lack of jurisdiction.
I recommend approval of CPC, or I move approval of CPC 128-13. Is there a second? Commissioner Siegel, is there discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. It is unanimous.
Point of order, I believe we missed CBCs 123, 13, 124, 125, 126, and 127. They should have been sequential.
I can do them now. I'm sorry, I had them at the end of my materials pursuant. I just now remember that we moved the agenda. I'm sorry.
Okay. Just can keep going. We'll cover them all, right?
We will.
Okay.
The next one I'd like to consider is CPC 130-13, and that involves an allegation that a person believes an officer completed a report to favor his ex-wife. The complaint was assigned to an independent review office investigator to conduct an investigation. The independent review office reviewed the computer-aided dispatch, the police report, the 911 call, and then the report as well. The report reflects what was obtained in all of the investigation, and so the allegation does not contain any violations of the SOP because the report accurately reflects what was told the officer. So I'm asking you to approve my inactivation of this case for no SOP violation.
I move that we approve CPC 130-13. Is there a second? Commissioner Foster, is there discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. It is unanimous.
The next case is CPC 131-13, which there was an allegation that an officer failed to write a report. The independent review office investigator was assigned this case and spoke with the complainant, and the complainant indicated that the matter had been resolved informally and wished that the matter be inactivated as a successful resolution of it informally. So I ask that you approve my letter as written.
Okay, I move that we approve CPC 131-13. Is there a second? Commissioner Siegel, is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. It is approved unanimously.
The next one is CPC 141-13. There is a complaint filed by an individual who said two men were posing as APD officers. The independent review office investigator conducted an investigation, and APD officers were present at the complainant's home earlier in April, but then the day that the complaint was made involves an incident in May 20th, and there were absolutely no Albuquerque police officers who were dispatched or appeared at the complainant's home. Through the records, the complainant, after being informed this, said that they were posing as APD officers, and so the independent review office investigator instructed the complainant to file a police report that someone was posing as APD officers, and the complainant said she understood. I'm asking that you inactivate this case, or there are no APD officers who were at the complainant's home on the date in question.
I move that we approve CPC 141-13. Is there a second? Commissioner Barella, seconded.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, we have comments. Commissioner Stein.
may I ask, has there been a post referral made in this matter involving this citizen? If so, could we,
Yes.
oh, there has been?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Siegel.
I had wondered the same thing. I'm happy to hear there has been a referral. Also, I'd asked the IRO to turn to page 2, the paragraph, and please redact the telephone number. Third paragraph.
It's just a UNM business number, it's not her personal number.
Well, I think that 277 is at the most, the prefix, and I think that, no, all right. You think it's appropriate, leave it?
Okay. Motion and seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, we have unanimously approved CPC 141-13.
This case is 144-13, in which the complainant alleged that their RV was improperly towed, and that it wasn't looked into or resolved or dealt with by the Albuquerque Police Department in an effective manner. The Independent Review Office investigator spoke with the complainant and learned that the matter had been resolved and she wished to withdraw her complaint. Because of the matter having been resolved, I'm asking that you inactivate the case, adopt the letter as written.
I move approval of CPC 144-13. Is there a second? Peterson, is there discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, we approve 144-13. Unanimous.
The final letter is one involving 5 complaints, 123-13, 124-13, 125-13, 126-13, and 127-13, all filed by an individual basically complaining about members of the crisis intervention team, officers responding to her home. She has an ongoing dispute with her neighbor. She's unhappy and dissatisfied with the officers who are trying to assist her in resolving her conflict with the others, and as well as trying to get her assistance with other personal issues that she has. The Independent Review Office thoroughly investigated each of the complaints, spoke with the crisis intervention members who were involved in complaints against, and found that there was absolutely no violation, and instructed the that she had other avenues of other police departments that also help her that would have jurisdiction on her dispute with her neighbor. So I'm asking that you inactivate this case for lack of jurisdiction. Lack of any SOP violation. And there was 1 or 2 that were filed beyond the 90-day time limit, and therefore we did not have jurisdiction. I'm asking to adopt the letter as written.
Recommend approval of the letter concerning CPCs 123 through 127-13. Is there a second? Second. Commissioner Peterson, discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Stein.
May I ask, and I understand this is a difficult situation, but do we know what the nature of the problem is with the neighbor?
I would direct that question to Investigator Scott Stapole, who is investigating this matter thoroughly.
Cameron, Commissioner Stein. Her dispute, she is under the belief that her neighbor is been trying to cause problems for her. In particular, she believes that the neighbor wants to run her over and run her family over. And I don't want to go into much more than that.
May I ask this, is there any suggestion of any danger to herself or others that is involved in this?
No, and that's the problem is that there is a high frequency of calls to the police department from a particular complainant. And so there's been referrals made to the crisis intervention team in the coast unit, and they are working with her and trying to resolve these problems. And many times she's very happy about meeting with one of the coast officers, but then other times they mention, well, you need to stop calling police so frequently to report the same problem over and over. She becomes upset and she has to file a complaint. And we have a number of complaints that are filed by her, but we look at every one, and there was one that was recently put through, and it was a legitimate concern. It was, she had called the police, she requested a police officer to come meet with her, and the officer did not go and meet with her, just drove by and didn't respond to her house. And so, you know, each one of her complaints is reviewed for allegations of standard operating procedure violations, and if there is anything with credibility behind it, we absolutely assign it and investigate it.
I understand that. I have no problem with that. That's not my concern. My concern is basically is the city, the police department, and the agencies of the city and those doing everything we can to resolve this problem.
I can't speak for the other agencies, but I can speak for the coast and the CIT team that I've talked to, and they are working diligently on trying to get this.
And there's nothing in, you know, that there was a commission that would in any way assist in any of that.
I don't see how. They're following policies and procedures and whatnot.
Thank you for the information.
Thank you, investigators. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Siegel.
I'm curious whether there's any locale camera tape any of the interactions with this citizen.
There would be. I didn't go that far as to obtaining the lapel camera on the, I believe there were 2 incidents where they actually came out. I think one of them was a phone call. I don't recall the details exactly, but I just conducted a preliminary investigation into the allegations.
Okay, and determined that there was no SOP violation alleged, and so there was no real reason to go into detail about
Yes, sir.
that. Okay, I understand.
Commissioner Peters.
I would ask that you just add the findings and conclusions, the reason we don't have jurisdiction. It's no standing operating procedure violation was alleged in the complaint, but even if there was one alleged, we don't have jurisdiction, and that's because of the 90 days, I assume. I would just ask that you add that. Well, under
On
page 3, just under the findings and conclusions for 127-13. I found it later, but I'll read that. Then the other thing I have is a question on page 4 under the investigation. The IRO investigator referred Ms. Baca to 2 other police agencies. I'm curious what those agencies are.
The Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department and the New Mexico State Police, they both have jurisdiction in the city of Albuquerque.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? We have a motion on the floor to approve CPCs 123-13 through 1-27-13. All in favor, please raise your right hand. It is unanimous. Okay, we have no non-concurrences this month, so we will move to our police shooting case. Take a break, that's a good idea. Let's take a 10-minute break, come back at 6:50.